Right, welcome everybody. So great to be on this platform, and shout out to my brother Erez that invited me to do this on this beautiful project, Festival of Infinite Lights. Such a good cause, such a beautiful thing. So I'll jump right into it, and I want to note that we are entered the month of Pisces, the month of Adar. And Kabbalistically, as we know, this signifies a huge opportunity to inject happiness, as it says, Misha nichnas Adar marbim besimcha. When the month of Adar enters, we multiply in joy. We multiply in joy. So I wanted to start off. First, before we get into the main subject that I wanted to share with you on this platform here. I wanted to start by reading a section from the Ari, Rabbi Isaac Luria, one of my favorite Kabbalists, and directly from his writings. So, for those of you who don't know, we have the writings of the Ari, and from the writings of the Ari, there is one gate, one shar. It's called Shar HaMitzvot, the shar of the mitzvot, shar of spiritual precepts. And in there, he describes something, one of my favorite sections. It's truly remarkable, and it has to do with the energy of this month, the month of Pisces, the month of Adar. And for those who don't know me, for me personally, my name is Daniel Naor, and I'm a Kabbalah teacher. And I'm also specialized in what we call tikkun healing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. That will be part of the program. But first, let's read from these writings from the Ari, and it says, "אבל השורש שהכל נשען עליו, the root that everything depends on, הוא שבעשיית המצווה, as we're pursuing mitzvot, doing spiritual deeds, spiritual precepts, אל יחשוב שיהיה עליו כמעשה וממהר להסירה מעליו. It shouldn't be done in a rush just to get it over with. So when we study, when we pray, when we share, it's not just to do a check mark on my list. אבל יחשוב בשכלו כאילו בעשתו אותה מצווה ירוויח 1,000 אלפי דיני זהב. You should think as if this spiritual work, this spiritual precept that you're about to do, whether it's prayer, spiritual work, whatever that might be, you should think as if in that moment, that action brings you, at that time, this is written about 400 years ago, it brings you 1,000 gold coins, compared to today, maybe, $1 million check. תרוויח 1,000 אלפי דיני זהב, ויהיה שמח בעשותו אותה מצווה. And a person should be tremendously happy as he is doing his spiritual work, shares, prays, whatever he does. בשמחה שאין לה קץ מלב ונפש בחשק גדול. With a joy, within happiness, right? Very appropriate for this month. To inject happiness into what we're doing. שאין לה קץ, without an end, מלב, from our heart, ובנפש ובחשק גדול, with great desire, and with all our soul. כאילו ממש בפועל נותנים לו 1,000 אלפי דיני זהב. As if literally we're receiving right now 1,000 gold coins. And he continues to say that כפי גודל שמחתו באמת וטוב לבב הפנימי, and to the degree that a person is injecting happiness, joy, excitement into what they are doing, in the internal happiness, כך יזכה לקבל אור עליון. To that degree, a person draws divine and supernal light from the upper worlds. ואם יתמיד בזה, אין ספק שיראה עליו רוח הקודש. And here he is promising something amazing. He's saying, if a person persists with that, there is no doubt, says the Ari, that a person will receive divine inspiration. Divine inspiration, which means being in the right place at the right time, knowing exactly what to say, where to be, what to do, having divine guidance at all times. So there's much to say about this section, but I just wanted to start with it as we're entering the month of Adar, Pisces, and we want to really not just paying attention to the quantity of how much we're doing, but also to the quality. What is the energy that I'm injecting while I pursue my day, while I'm interact with people, while I'm manifesting and creating projects? To the degree that we inject happiness while we're doing it, while we're in the process, to that degree, this is how much light we can be revealed in our life, and ultimately Ruach HaKodesh as well. So we will continue, and I'll share with you the few things that I had in mind for today on this platform, which is, right, we said we're going to talk about Kabbalah and mental health, and there are always a few things that we need to ask ourselves here, right? I mean, you don't need to convince anybody to want to be happy. Everybody innately wants to be happy. Nobody consciously decides to be unhappy. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I will try really hard today to do everything in my power not to be happy. That's just not human nature. So we don't need to convince anybody. And yet, there are many, many things that are standing in our way between us and our joy and happiness, which is our birthright. And my teacher, the Rav Berg, often used to say that people sort of like embrace their chaos like a garbage can and say, don't take it away from me. You know, I don't want to let it go. And while rationally it doesn't make sense, we all have this chaos, certain darkness, certain contradicting desires and limiting beliefs that we got accustomed to, that there's a certain sense of familiarity and safety in it. Even though we know in the long term it's not serving us, we're holding on to it, primarily because it's familiar, because it gives us a false sense of safety and comfort. And those are the very things that are standing in our way between us and our birthright, which is joy and happiness. Right? My friend Erez said, I had this thing, right? Don't block your blessings. We're blocking, unfortunately, unconsciously and subconsciously, we block our blessings all the time. So I wanted to give you a brief introduction to a work that I do mostly one-on-one, and I'm very passionate about, and also through workshops and guiding. And it's really my passion to show people, just accompany souls and showing them in ways which we all do are blocking our blessings, in which we get in our own way. And we don't realize it because it's all on a very hidden subconscious level. So what's causing us to hold on to contradicting desires? What's causing us to self-sabotage? Like all these things that we know it's not good for us, but we go ahead and do it anyway. It can be certain mindsets, certain beliefs, like we said, but there's more to it. So I want to share with you and frame it from a Kabbalistic point of view, really, that it all has to do with tikkun. Tikkun. Kabbalistically, we all come here to this world with a certain tikkun. Tikkun literally means correction, and those are what tikkun entails is two things. It's all the life lessons that we came to learn, and all the positive things that we came to share and to contribute. And they go hand in hand together. The more we correct that which needs correcting, the things that we came to learn and to transform, the better we can share our gifts with the world. Now, there are different levels of tikkun, and it's very deep. And so today, given the time, it's just going to be introduction to it. But I think even just that, having the awareness of it, can be very revealing, can raise our awareness, and with awareness, there's also always a greater possibility for change as well, positive change. So, tikkun relates to the soul and its life. So life lessons can be like, my soul may had signed a contract in the upper worlds before coming to this world, and part of that contract, right? We might say, like it goes with contracts. You didn't read the small print, right? We might have been very excited coming to this world, but in the small print there was also, okay, by the way, part of your life lessons that you came in this world to learn as a soul having a human experience in this body and in this physical world is lessons of learning how to deal with rejection, is lessons on how to learn how to forgive, learn what it means to love unconditionally. Your lessons that are related to your tikkun, to your soul, might be learning in how to overcoming being self-critical and hateful towards ourselves. It might have to do to overcome guilt and being okay with making mistakes and moving on and moving forward. There are many possibilities for tikkun. There might be with control, etc., etc. Now, the different levels in how we can learn these lessons and how there are certain blockages that can be associated with that in different levels that don't allow us to really take what's ours, which is our birthright, our divine right, which is infinite light, infinite blessings. That's everything creation and creator wants to share with us, but there's a process there. So part of the tikkun is the soul level, and Kabbalistically we learn that our soul has a journey, and that journey oftentimes entails reincarnation. For most of us, it's not our first time around. So from previous lifetimes, very likely that there were many events and incidents in which we have experienced some type of pain from previous lifetime. And that pain from previous lifetime, if it's not dealt with, if it's not processed, it can carry on for lifetime after lifetime, that can keep us attached on a soul level to be associated with suffering, to try to protect ourselves from that pain. And that can be layers of fear that I try to stay away and I isolate myself. And we know what happens when we isolate ourselves from others. Part of joy and happiness and the experience of delight is relationships. But if the pain from the past lifetime was so great that now I just can't. I block my heart, I close my heart, I shut down, I cannot, I isolate myself. That can be one way that served me as a protection mechanism back then in previous lifetime that carried over on a soul level in which we are not allowing ourselves to be happy. It's one level. There's another level. Part of the deal of our soul's contract before coming to this world was deciding and choosing. Our soul chose, believe it or not, chose everything according to what's best for our tikkun and how we are going to evolve as a soul and learn these life lessons. And part of that contract was our family, our parents, and the entire family system and ancestral lineage. We chose it. And so while we might or might not have or had a good childhood, a supportive one, or there was abandonment and neglect or maybe even abuse, no matter what our childhood might have been, from a Kabbalistic point of view, we might agree or disagree, but from a Kabbalistic point of view, our soul chose it. And we might frown now and say, how come I had a terrible childhood? How my soul would have never chosen that? Well, remember, we're not choosing according to what feels best per se. We're choosing according to what's going to be best for my tikkun. So if my soul agreed to learn the lesson of forgiveness, there might be chosen dynamics in the family in which I volunteered to get hurt so I can learn the lesson of forgiveness. So tikkun is almost a synonym to family and vice versa. So in our family, because it's so related to tikkun, also in our entire family system and from an ancestral point of view, there could have been a lot of suffering too. And sometimes there is a deeper hidden dynamic and loyalty that we want in the name of belonging. This is one of the greatest human needs, is the desire to belong. And so sometimes if it's learned and adopted, and we know trauma is being passed down through generations and generations, and if part of my ancestral lineage there was a lot of suffering, that might affect me too in a very unconscious way. Me trying to be and stay loyal and belong to my family system, there might be a lingering, hidden, subconscious belief and dynamic that in order to belong, I need to suffer too. In order to belong, I need to experience certain sacrifices. I've been working a lot with one-on-one with people, and always amazes me to see once these dynamics have been unearthed and people start to realize, wow, of course. And it's not an intellectual understanding, but it's a dynamic that when you catch it and it resonates with your heart, then you know. And sometimes, whatever our blockage might be, we might want to close our eyes and ask ourselves the question, where is that blockage coming from? Why am I not allowing myself to be happy, to have good relationships, to experience love? Sometimes we're blocking even prosperity. Why is that? And we put our hands on our heart and say, is it from a soul level? Is it from a previous lifetime? And if you allow the answer to come to you, you will receive an answer. You might put your hands on your heart and say, is it related to my ancestors? Am I trying to prove a certain loyalty to them, a sense of belonging? Now, one of the things I can share with you personally that I have found was when I started to take on further and going deeper in this journey. I was born in Israel. My grandfather from my dad's side is a Lithuanian Jew and a Holocaust survivor. And for a long time in my life, I was holding a certain sense of guilt that I didn't know where it came from. Like there was always a point in my life a few years back where I felt like no matter how good it's going to get, there was always a lingering, like a subtle static voice in the background saying, when's the next shoe gonna drop? Or cannot be that good, or beware, like that didn't allow me to fully celebrate and take and believe that, it can be good. Life is meant to be to be enjoyed, and to ask, how does it get even better than this? Like there was something that didn't allow me to move forward with that. And long story short, I recognized that there was a hidden loyalty there with my grandfather. And again, it's not something that is that you study and then now you start to understand it. It's something that you feel. It's something that you feel once you expose that dynamic. And I start to realize, of course, it's not even my guilt. It doesn't even belong to me. It's the survivor's guilt of my grandfather. And the moment I just saw that dynamic, I was able to honor my grandfather, leave it with him. It's part of your dignity, grandfather. And I'm not trying to take that from you. And I must tell you, personally, it was such a relief. It was such like a something that lifted off me, that allowed me to enjoy life a lot more. So sometimes these dynamics and these beliefs are inherited from a family system point of view. And then there's the third level. And the third level is early childhood, our early childhood, events from our early childhood. Now that might include traumatic events, but sometimes it's not doesn't have to be super traumatic. Sometimes it's little moments of neglect or abandonment, or something that we perceived as lacking something. So we said soul, from the family and ancestral, we can have these tikkuns and blockages, and then from this lifetime, right? And most of them are from early childhood events. Now, events from early childhood that marked a significant turning point, a certain shift. It might be certain neglect or abuse, or maybe a certain, maybe my parents struggled and I saw them struggle. Maybe it wasn't personally directed to me, but I saw a certain struggle that led me to believe something, that led me to, or forced me to try to save my parents, right? That can be also a big one, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So those moments, those are crucial to identify, because there were moments in our life in which we adopted a certain limiting belief that is related to our tikkun, and we adopted it at a certain moment. And it's lingering around in our subconscious, and this voice is telling us over and over and over again. Let's say we experience a certain abandonment or neglect in our childhood, and now this voice is telling us, you're not worthy, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not good enough. Maybe it was we were pressured to get good grades, and we felt like no matter what we do, we cannot please our parents, and now we really started to believe that, yes, I'm not good enough. No matter what I do, I'm not good enough. And it starts off as a belief that we adopt, but the problem is that sooner or later, those beliefs, if we don't shift them, turn them around, they become our identity, or we mistakenly adopt them as our identity. It's what we call our false identity. It's not who we really are, but we adopt it. So it starts from an event, that event turns into a belief, and that belief turns into my identity, and that identity starts to become my reality. You see how deep it goes? So let's rewind back now and go back to the question, why can't we just be happy, right? Tell a person, it should be so simple, right? Let's just be happy. Let's just all decide. We know we all want to be happy, and we all want, experience joy, experience love, and an unlimited. Let's just wake up tomorrow and just decide it. You see how many layers there are, hidden dynamics, subconscious beliefs that are so deeply ingrained that it starts to become an identity and a reality that even if we want to, there's a wall. There's a wall. We can't. Even though that's what the very same thing that we want, we now can't. We self-sabotage because we believe that somehow these limiting beliefs are serving us in one way or another. They become familiar, they become safe, and so we have the tendency, even though intellectually we know that's bad, we have the tendency to go back to it. We have the tendency to go back to it. So what we call the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination or Satan, right, tailors itself, its voice, based according to our tikkun. So if our tikkun, right, we said our soul choice before coming to this world was overcoming rejection. Now our little opponent, our evil inclination, this little voice in our head will, based on our tikkun, will challenge us and constantly will tell us, you won't amount to anything. No, nobody, don't show yourself. It's not safe, You need to protect yourself. Remember last time you got hurt? You don't want to experience that again. So the number one thing that we want to start to do, because I know this is just an introduction to it, so might not be able to get all the answers, but even that overview, and as we hear it, to reflect on our personal lives, what is my voice telling me? When did it start telling me these things? When was the time, what is the event associated, maybe perhaps in my early childhood, in which I started to hear that voice and adopt it as my own? That's a big, big question. If we can't figure that out, we're already halfway there. Halfway there. Because if we believe that lie and we start to expose that lie, the moment we start to expose that lie that we're not lovable, that it's not to be ourselves, that putting yourself, it's better to play small and safe. Having a lot, people will use you, and you might lose it all, and the pain of that is greater than taking the risk of having a lot. If you'll be too happy, if you're happy, other people will lose. How can I allow myself to be happy when there's so much pain and suffering in the world? So it's better to join other people's misery than express my joy. Wow, that one I just felt. There's a lot of people that subconsciously believe that, right? So when we expose the lie and we see, wow, maybe there's something that I'm holding on to there, we can start to rewire, and then also try to maybe see, is it on a soul level? Is it from a previous lifetime? Is it a loyalty that is connected to my family system, to my ancestors? Or is it something learned from this lifetime? And many times they're all connected. There might be all three of them. And this is the beauty of this journey, that we're exploring, we're learning, we're identifying, and with it comes a lot of growth. Every time we identify another layer of our tikkun, we're more aligned and more connected with our life purpose. Because the sole reason why the soul came here to this world is really only for one thing: learning these lessons. That's our purpose. And the more we're on the path of finding that, digging that, and exposing that, the more we're connected to our purpose, the happier we become. So we don't need to be perfect. No one of us is perfect. And this journey is also not won overnight. This battle is not won overnight. All we need is an open mind, open heart, and a curiosity and desire to grow and to transform spiritually. And then we'll be guided. We'll receive guidance from above to help us to see. And then we can start the rewiring process. There's many ways to do that. We're too short on time to continue with that. But their prayers, their meditations. I like personally also a lot believe in the work with affirmations, because if we're telling ourselves the lie, we can also tell ourselves the truth, and there's great power to that. But that's the main part that I wanted to share today on this platform. For those of you who want to stay connected with me, I would love to stay connected with you. You can text my number. I have a free community text number that I send out tips and insights and more things that you can stay in touch with me. It's a number that you can text me directly, and I text messages out, and I also receive the messages directly. So the number is 310-388-9579, 310-388-9579, and you can text to this number either just hi, and you will be added to my general community number, or if you text the code words tikkun, Tikkune, you will be added to my Tikkun Healing community chat. So thank you so much. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. And I know there are many, many beautiful and amazing speakers and healers and artists. Hope you enjoy. All the best.